Hi, I'm Nate Wakeford, your masculinity and mindset coach. This is our weekly coaching sessions where I share some insights into building masculine frame and then move on to a breakthrough session after. Today's topic, which is questions that have been posted inside the group. This one comes from Andre, and he asks, or he poses the idea, are you aware of the areas you need to improve in order to become the greatest version of yourself? Have you committed to acknowledging these areas? Have you made up your mind that this is not how you will continue? Where will you draw the line in the sand? And what I can say is that in my experience, having worked with literally hundreds of men, men typically let circumstances get to a very, very bad state before they're willing to ask for support or assistance. That's most men. There are a few men, however, have cracked the code and they recognize that they will go a lot further in life when they have the support of a brotherhood and when they have the support of a mentor or mastermind circle that is focused on continuous improvement. Most men leave their personal development to chance. A few men, and they're typically the high achievers who go further in life, they decide the person that they want to become, the man that they wish to groom themselves to grow and build themselves to become. And then they focus on that and they're strategic about it. And the men who do this, typically, because it's the most efficient way, surround themselves with men that are also high achievers, that are also on a mission to improve themselves, to be the best men that they can be, to build themselves into becoming extraordinary. And so it's pretty clear by your social circle the type of man that you'll become. And that's why they say your network is your net worth. When you surround yourself with low achievers, with men who are fixated on comfort, fixated on avoidance, and basically do not have any strong aspirational goals, they are not pursuant of some great dream or vision, and instead they just watch time pass just to exist. And so they don't really attempt to try and be the extraordinary. Now, the irony is either way you're going to suffer. If you choose to, or at least experience pain, you can choose how you choose to interpret the pain. If you're on the path to becoming empowered and building yourself into an extraordinary man, you're going to have to continuously lean into discomfort. You're going to need to work out at the gym. You're going to need to build your mental strength. You're going to need to take risks. You're going to have to stretch yourself. You're going to have to continuously lean into fears. If you're a man who's got no ambition, then you'll experience a different kind of pain. The pain of knowing that your life won't improve. The pain of, being surrounded by men who don't really care for your highest well-being and won't support you towards it. It's often a very lonely path. The pain of shame of knowing that you're falling short of what you're capable of. So you choose the pain. It's the pain that will build into someone strong, or it's the pain of avoidance. And the pain of avoidance comes from a lack of belief in yourself. But the thing is, belief is cultivated by taking action. When you take action and it's something that you desire in your life and you work towards it and then achieve it, you start to build confidence. You start to build confidence that you can achieve what you put your mind to. This starts to build yourself up in your esteem. And that's the path where soon you start to meet and attain even more miraculous outcomes, because you become a high achiever that knows that discovers the full potentiality of what he's capable of. So I'm just going to go back to this question again, make sure I'm answering all of it. My computer decided to close its screen. All right. So coming back to the original point, the greatest version of yourself requires you to have a vision for yourself, for one. Most men tolerate their circumstances. They become apathetic and they don't even consider what they're capable of. They don't consider a better outcome for themselves. They say that the quality of your life is determined by the questions you ask. That's one thing. But I would also say the quality of your life is determined by what you consider as a possibility on the menu of life that you've written for yourself. Constantly, when I'm working with men, what I find is what they consider possible for themselves are very, very limited options. That level of income that they're at, the type of woman they attract, the level of health or fitness. And this comes back to the limitations of your mind. And so a lot of people talk about developing mindset. Well, a big part of mindset is having clearly articulated outcomes that you believe are possible for yourself, but hold you at the edge of your resourcefulness and your capacity to accomplish that end result. So you're constantly at the edge of your growth, the edge of your possibility, and you're constantly leaning into it. And because you have a greater vision that's far beyond you, but you measure yourself in the incremental steps that you take towards that outcome. So what a low achieving man does is he avoids that tension that's created by never really setting any big ambitious goals for himself in the first place. So once you set a big, hairy, audacious goal that you're committing yourself to creating, and you start telling people that's what you're doing, then when you move towards it, you do risk that you might stumble and fumble and fall a few times. But if you keep getting back up, you keep moving towards it. In fact, some people say that, the reason you become successful is because you're willing to continue where the other man stops. And he, at the first trip or fall, he decides not to get back up again. And I can say that's true for me, is that I have been taken down so many times in my lifetime. I was bullied extensively as a child. And this is going on for like over a decade. I grew up in a very small country town. I didn't have any big, role models to look at. And what I did do is I saw an uncle who had been successful in business, and I decided that I wanted to become successful as well. And I wouldn't, he's moderately successful. I wouldn't say now, it's good. He's done generally pretty well for himself, but at least it was like, it gave me the idea of, wow, that's possible. And so I think that's so important, that if you've grown up in an environment where there aren't a lot of wealthy people, or there aren't a lot of people who are really motivated towards success, you need to find a reference that you're willing to model yourself on and move towards. Find someone who's successful in a way that you want to be successful, and find someone who's got a strategy for accomplishing that. And this is where the idea of starting to fill yourself with resources to help sell yourself on the idea that it's possible. And reading books definitely helps that. I read so many books in the early stages of my business. I joined mastermind circles. I did in those mastermind circles. I did numerous developmental programs. I remember one of the first programs was Eben Pagan, Wake Up Productive. I read all the typical books, You Think and Grow Rich. Oh man, the books haven't come to me, but they're the ones, How to Influence People, all the classics basically. And they made an impression that over time, I started to adopt the philosophies, principles, and ideas of these books, and they had an impact. And they gave me hope. They gave me an idea that what I was moving towards was possible, that people had done this before. So if you're not reading books to expand your mindset, and I'm constantly reading books, I'm reading books all the time. At this stage, I'm auditory, so I listen to most of my books through Audible, and that's how I do it. When I'm working out at the gym, I'm listening, and I'm on the bike or something like that, I'm listening to an audiobook. So what deprives men is, if a man of this growth, of this change, is one, they don't consider a higher possibility or existence as possible for them. They don't entertain the idea. They don't start to dream. They don't record those dreams into a vision board or a next perfect day or any of that sort of, aspirational idea generation. They instead funnel their attention into and focus into watching sports or playing games or something like that. Nothing to consider how their life could be better. And they live in the fantasy of their dreams rather than try to put their dreams into reality. And so you have to be willing to really take stock and acknowledge your current circumstances. Set the dream of where you are, which is your desired state, but also take full account and responsibility for your present state. What is not going right now, that if it were continue, where would you end up? And, are you repeating the patterns of your parents in some way? Would you like to change that in your generation? Would you like to change that for yourself? So to take, and there's questionnaires that I have in the Sovereign Rising program, and it's part of the Sovereign Brotherhood Community. It's part of the paid program. And inside that, we have a questionnaire where you do take stock of yourself. You say, what do you stand for? What are your values? What's your next perfect day look like? How are you working towards that? What actions are you taking? What actions and behaviors do you have now that aren't complementary to that path and trajectory in life? And so if you are unwilling to be honest with yourself, then you won't change your circumstances. And it may be depressing momentarily, but at least you'll start taking action towards a better place, better opportunities and better experience in life. And there's usually a line in the sand moment where you've experienced enough pain that you want to change things. In fact, I was chatting with a likely client that I had a sales meeting with yesterday. I'm likely going to be coaching in a one-to-one fashion. And he had 8 of this, he'd experienced the same thing 8 times with 8 different women. And he'd reached a point, and this is each time he'd gone to an increasing severity. He'd been separated 3 times, to give you some indication. And even when he started dating after these separations and divorces, he continued to create the same patterns, even though he wasn't in a married relationship. He was just in an irregular relationship. And rather than address the pattern, he kept recreating the pattern until finally the situations and circumstances and repeating this pattern happened so many times, he recognizes he was a common denominator in that experience. And so he made a decision that he's now ready to have a different experience and he's willing to change that. So typically the line in the sand moment, and this is whether you're just beginning because, you want to improve your life, or, it is that you've experienced pain in such a way that you never want to experience that again. You've reached, I definitely wanted to change my life circumstances. I definitely, through a book, another book by did another program by Eben Pagan, and I can't remember what it was called, but essentially it was about becoming a high value man, and that really appealed to me. I was Mastery of Women and Dating, but there was quite a lot of depth to this program, and it was basically you can build yourself into a high value man. And that was the first time I really heard the concept of, I can build myself into the man that I wish to become. I can build myself as a high value man. So then I started to consider, well, what are all the different ways that I would, consider myself to be a high value man, or how could I create myself as such? Well, I would want to become successful in business. I would want to get fit. I would want to be a good fighter. I'd want to be able to dance. I'd want to be able to talk to women. I would want to be able to be good at sex. I wanted to be able to, hold conversations. And so what ended up happening was I started to refine myself. I started to actually craft myself to become a high value man. And it ended up happening. I ended up becoming a lot more attractive to the opposite sex, to women. I ended up, becoming more successful in business. I became fitter. I was competing in the, national competition for Taekwondo. I took up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a whole bunch of stuff like this. And that was all intentional to build myself up into a high value man. And this is where, coming full circle in the original conversation, this is where I started to look for masterminds, men to work out and train with, men that I'd go kickboxing with or boxing with, to roll and train with in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You start to orientate around men who are on the same path, and you have got those conversations that are reinforcing of becoming and mastering that area of your life. Did the same thing for business, as I mentioned before. So this is the path to becoming an empowered man. You have the vision for yourself. You set yourself a strategy. You surround yourself with like-minded men on the same or similar path. You start to emulate people who have already mastered that area, whether they're a coach or it's a program you invest in, or a mentor, and you start to get results, and you start to build yourself into an extraordinary man, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. And it requires a level of maturity to do so, because it will often require you to give up those behaviors that weaken you. It'll require you to give up the behaviors of self-sabotage, of seeking distractions, of avoidance, of comfort seeking, all this sort of stuff, of hitting the booze and getting drunk and then blowing all your money on stupid stuff, all that. You'll need to start to focus your energy and time and resources into joining gyms, into enrolling in programs, into investing in healthy food, all this, and the right supplements, this sort of stuff. So you choose the type of reality and life that you wish to experience, and the person you wish to become, by how you invest your time, energy, attention, and money. And obviously, if you invest that into becoming a stronger, more extraordinary man, that's the result you'll get. If you focused it into distractions and that which makes you weak, you're not going to be a high achieving man, and you're going to have to bear the consequences of not having built yourself up into a high value man, which means less dating options, which means typically feeling more emotionally depressed, which typically means having less success and less opportunities in life, which typically means, a more depressing reality. As a man, fortune favors those who commit to building themselves up into becoming strong, capable, resourceful, confident, and in high esteem. So I'll leave it with the last question there. When will you draw the line in the sand? When will you have had enough of your life, of your current life circumstances? And when will you decide that you will make a difference in your own life? When will you choose to become a version of yourself that you create for yourself, and start working diligently and consistently towards that? When will you have had enough pain of your current and previous circumstances that you wish to create something different? Well, hopefully this video could be that line in the sand moment. That would be my hope for you. And if you are ready for that, then I encourage you to join the Sovereign Brotherhood, come to the weekly calls from where there's video recordings coming from, and start yourself on a rite of passage to building yourself up into an extraordinary man. So this concludes the first part of the video. The second part, we are going to go into our coaching session to one of the guys that are in the chat. And you can mute that. So Elijah, awesome to have you in the session. We'll do a little mini breakthrough sesh. We focused on creation of wealth, I believe. So actually, I'll get you to unmute now. Just a bit of cafe noise going in the background. I don't know if you got a set of headphones, but good to have you on. So you can unmute. Just tell me something now. What's your desired outcome? So if we had a little magical carpet ride that we could arrive at any destination, what would you be thinking, knowing differently at the end of this call? So it's that you knew you'd made a fundamental shift in your awareness around money.
I think the wisdom to use what I have to my advantage, or to make new moves, because for me, ultimately, it's the decisions and the wisdom in the decisions I make and who I contact around my finances.
Got it. So what specifically, in a tangible, physical way, what would be the monetary outcome that, for instance, or the physical outcome that would represent you having the financial objective or goal that you're desiring?
Depends on the time frame. As of like the next month, I'd like 5 to 10K.
Give me a specific number. It could be 5, could be 10.
Yeah. Are we talking like the next month? Is that like the time frame?
Yeah, monthly income. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go 10.
Okay, 10. All right. So I want to check something just quickly. Have you ever earned $10,000 in a month before?
Yes, or close to. Yeah.
Okay, close to good. Because, and has it been repeating or only ever once off, or tell me the nature of it?
Lump sum. So the one I'm thinking of, I went to a mining camp for
Got it.
a week or 3 weeks, and yeah, I was
Got it.
on $3,000 a week. So
Okay, got it. So, which was just under 10K. So it sounds like 10K is your limit. So, or maybe
yeah,
there
we
was,
also a lump sum though. So I think it's more like getting like, and the same sort of thing with the other areas. Like I'll get some money and then it kind of just goes back down to like zero, and then it's like, you know.
okay. So this is a good question. What might happen if you, and I don't want you to think a logical response to this answer. I want you to blurt whatever answer comes to mind. What might happen if you were to earn more than $10,000 a month
I
consistently?
might waste it.
You might waste it. All right. So we've now uncovered a limiting belief, right? That you think if you earn more than 10,000 a month, there's no point because you might waste it. All right. So what would be the highest positive intended outcome of you wasting the money?
Lots of success.
No.
No, did I hear
What,
wrong?
yeah. What is the highest positive intended outcome of you wasting the money?
I learned a lesson.
You'd learn a lesson. What's the lesson you need to learn?
How to manage my money.
So do you,
Or how to make more.
so this sounds like a logical response. It doesn't sound like the response of someone who's, if that were the case, you would have already made the money, right? If you're not letting yourself, if you're wasting your money as a strategy to learn how to make more money, no amount of you wasting the money will ever give you more money. Right? If that's your primary strategy for making more money is wasting money, or to motivate yourself to learn to make more money, has it been working? Has you been in the fear of wasting money? Has that motivated you to learn how to make more money consistently?
Yes and no.
All right. Has it been successful? Meaning, have you been making more money?
No.
Right. So somewhere, and I don't entirely believe that your highest positive intended outcome of wasting money or the fear of wasting money is to teach yourself how to make money. I think you're avoiding making money because for whatever reason, it's a safe, I'm going to find out why, it's a safer option for you not to make money. So I'm sitting in attention to uncover this underlying subconscious motivation. So tell me a little bit about your parents. Did they make a lot of money?
I think from my understanding of it, quite similar. My mother definitely, more recently makes a lot of money, consistent, and well, a lot, different varyings depending on your perspective, but a good solid amount to stay healthy, alive, a lot of food and things. Dad, same now, but when I was younger, Dad was definitely more like a lump sum kind of guy. He would do big projects. Yeah. And he would get big lump sums of money, and then there would be time between the next project.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's interesting, huh?
Yeah, I've seen that one before. It's kind of interesting.
You've seen that.
Yeah.
So are you the firstborn child?
Second.
You're the second-born child. I don't believe you are. I believe you're the third-born child. Now, what I mean by that is if your mum had any miscarriages, any abortions, any stillborns, anything like that, a failed pregnancy, then this counts as a pregnancy of sorts, even if it's not a full term. Do you know if your mum had any miscarriages, abortions, or anything like that?
As far as I know, not before me. but yes, one after me.
Maybe check if she's had one before you.
Okay.
I'll explain why. In a family constellation, if you're, and I checked this in the field as well just then, if you're the second born child, you will not so much try to heal your mother's wounds. Firstborn child follows father, second-born child follows mother, third-born child tries to follow both. And I shouldn't say born. Pregnancy. First pregnancy, second pregnancy, third pregnancy. So what I'm seeing is if you're playing out the patterns of your father, you're not likely to be the second child, you're likely to be the third. And when I tested it, it came back that from the muscle testing that you're the third. So we can test that just as you say it for a second. Just say, I'm the first child, and just notice how it feels to say that.
Firstborn child.
And what does that feel like in your body? I get a queasiness in my stomach that it doesn't feel right. All right.
No.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel right. All right. So then I say I'm the second child.
I'm the second-born child. No.
Now say I'm the third child.
I'm the third-born child. A little bit more, yes.
Right. Anyway, in material sense, it's just it's not going to change the type of intervention I do or anything like that. It's just interesting and curious to know, because it does affect what we call in the family constellation sense or the family system sense, the type of suffering obligations that we choose, which in this case, the following of the father. Typically, that's only the first and third children do that. Right. So I'm going to do an unhook. So let's just get to the core of something here. Your father has these moments of making money in a lump sum, and then it dwindles away to nothing. And so what we do, the reason why we have these things are called devotional suffering obligations, is because we gain acceptance and love by conforming to the family unit, right? And so one of the things you can do is you answer this question. In my family, the rule around money that I learned from my father was, finish the sentence.
In my family, the rule around money that I learned from my father is be safe.
Okay. Be safe. How is being safe relate to making lump sums and slowly having that money dwindle away? Is that the only lesson you learned?
Be careful. Use it wisely.
Because what's the presumption?
Because you don't know when the next lot of money will come.
Oh. So what I learned in my family, and this is for you, not for me, is that money might come, but you don't know when the next one will come. So you have to try and make it last and until the next. It happens sporadically. It doesn't happen continuously and increasing in proportions. Right? So we'll unhook yourself. I'll do a little pattern, just say yes and acceptance when I prompt you to say so if you agree with what I'm saying. Dear Dad, because I love you so much, I'll experience money in sporadic windfalls such that it dwindles down to very little so that you don't have to suffer anymore. And as I say these words, I recognize the futility of that endeavor. No matter how much I experience inconsistency in the flow of money towards me and through me, no matter how much I experience money dwindling down to nothing or very little, no amount of my suffering could ever take up the suffering that you've endured. So I choose to end this suffering obligation now. So yes and acceptance.
Yes.
Instead, I choose to experience life and the creation of money in a consistent way, one where I experience income and money and riches and wealth in a way that provides security, consistency, and abundance, one where I can see the wealth accumulate and grow over time, such that I have all the resources I need and more for my highest good, for my highest expression, for the fulfillment of my purpose and legacy in life, all in accordance with divine Will. Yes, and acceptance.
Yes.
Yes. Good. All right. Next one. I just want you to say the word. It's safe to earn $10,000 or more a month.
It's safe to earn $100,000 a month.
Wow. I went for 10,000. You went for 100,000. That's good. That's a windfall. I'll leave it at that. Bam. That's results right there. Okay. What might you lose that you value if you were to earn more than $10,000 a month consistently? What might you lose that you value?
Friendships.
Got it. Would you call it? So I associate friendships with belonging, with connection. Is it possible to make $10,000 or more a month and experience belonging and connection?
Yes.
Is it possible to earn $10,000 or more a month and not experience belonging and connection?
I'm getting a maybe.
Still possible.
Yeah.
Is it possible to not earn more than $10,000 a month and experience belonging and connection?
Yes.
Is it possible to not earn more than $10,000 a month and not experience belonging and connection?
Yes.
Is it okay now with your subconscious mind, your personal field experience to create the outcome where you experience $10,000 or more a month in income and experience belonging and connection?
Yeah.
Yes, and acceptance. Great, great, beautiful. Good. So there's a few books I'd recommend. The Science of Getting Rich would be one of the books. Have you read that book?
By
Covey, I think it is. The Science of Getting Rich.
Getting Rich. I'm not sure that I have yet. It might. I reckon when I look it up, it's going to be in my my wanted list.
Yeah. So Science of Getting Rich is one book I'd recommend. You can write it down if you can, because I'm going to give you 3 books.
By Wallace D. Wattles.
Yeah, Wattles, that's the one. Sorry, not Covey. That's in a different book. Yeah. So The Science of Getting Rich, that's one of them. Beautiful. Next book, The Game of Life and How to Play It.
Florence Scovel. Shin.
Yes. The last one, Happy Pocket Full of Money. Three fantastic books on money and wealth creation.
David Cameron.
Yeah. Screenshot, watch those. You can watch them on repeat. I can't tell you how many times. It's probably due for another time. How many times I've listened to each of those books. It's because you're programming the brain, you're absorbing in, you're being in the frequency of people who are talking about abundance continuously, and aligning your thoughts, words, and actions in accordance with that. And then having a very clear outcome, so $10,000 or more a month, but then you can write down the 20 ways that you could create that. Now, actually, this comes from an idea of 20 ways that you could make $1 million, right?
I played that on a rooftop one time. Me and my friend were like, all right, we're going to sort this out. And we wrote out like 100, like, you're going to find the most random ways that you can make money as well.
All right.
Great.
So 20 ways you can make $1 million is one. And that gets you, the idea is you get to think creatively. Now, the other thing is just notice what happened there. I put more items on your menu list of life. Oh, you mean I can actually make $10,000 more a month and I can belong and I can experience connection? Oh, great. See, we have these limitations that we don't realize we have that prevent us from having the experiences that we desire. Once we rewire the subconscious, we start creating new opportunities and possibilities such that what you consider for yourself as being possible is on a much more elevated trajectory. And this is the power of being coached. It's the power of being part of a brotherhood that are focused on creating wealth and well-being. So we'll check in. The idea is you want to set yourself, you can ask yourself a question. If I were to generate $10,000 in a month consistently, what would be the next right action that would be most appropriate for me to take now? You can ask the divine for guidance. The other thing is you can get yourself into a mastermind around money where we start to talk about money. Another option is start to educate yourself in an area of interest and learn how to become, masterful at solving problems in that area. Because whichever problems you're very good at solving, people are willing to typically exchange money from that. And the bigger the problems you solve, the more money they're willing to give. And especially if you give reliability, consistency, trust in the resolution of those challenges. It's really just the essence of it. And then, but money is a currency. It's a flow. And you want to be able to receive it, much similar to a woman. When you have presuppositions of its scarcity, when you try to reach for it in ways that and grab it rather than allow yourself to receive it, typically it eludes. So it's being able to hold yourself in a high vibrational state with relationship to money. That's the most important. There's a congruent alignment between your conscious desires, your emotional state when you think about money, and your repeating thoughts that are in association with that desired outcome. This is where daily prayers, incantations, affirmations, vision boarding, visualization is good because it puts you in a positive emotional state and frame of mind in relationship to your outcomes. And then making sure the subconscious beliefs that you have also are aligned and allow you to receive what you're intentionalizing and visualizing and feeling.
I had a little thought just then around had like a semi-separation yesterday with someone I was seeing, and how that was so similarly related to like the money thing, and how I didn't feel like I was enough for her at points. And it's sort of the same with money, like that relationship with money was the same. Like I didn't think money wants me, and because I feel like I wasn't enough for it. Which is something I know, but I think it's like one of those not enough things.
So do you think you're not enough or there isn't enough?
No, me.
You're not enough.
Yeah, I know there's enough because like, look at the world.
But you're not enough. You're not enough for what?
Well, it comes down to like, when I think of not enough, it's like a skill level, right?
No.
But,
well, you're logical. Let me hear you out.
So,
I'm just telling you straight out. That's not what the origin is.
Okay, but like in terms of a belief in a skill level. So like, it might be
it's imposter syndrome, but I'm going to cut you short. I'm going to save you time. If you're a little kid that's emulating your parents, what do you deeply want is your father or mother, let's talk about your father here, love, undivided love and attention and acceptance.
Of course.
Right? When the little boy in you, for some reason, and it can also mean that maybe you wanted something as a little boy. And if it was later and it was money and you knew the concept of money and you wanted a toy, you wanted to get something and your father said, no, you can't have it. We don't have enough for that. We don't have enough money. Then that could be the impression. You could get it. But the impressions that are made, I'm telling you, aren't about skill set. The impressions that are first made, that becomes the strategy later. That becomes the explanation later. Oh, if I was only better at it, then I could. The initial impression is made through observation or a traumatic event, somewhere where you really wanted something and couldn't have it, something when it was taken away from you, or there wasn't enough. So what lets you know that there's not enough? Pause. No, I want you to look up to your left. No, there. But imagine when I move your eyes, there's micro move. There you go. You touched on it. Don't make rapid eye movements. Do like a tiny, tiny movement, like a mouse tractor, and it's over to your right. But I want you to not just go zook. I want you to just slowly move towards your right. Keep your head straight and slowly move your eyes across. You're looking the wrong way.
My right or your right? Sorry.
Your left. My bad. My bad. We're working on a camera here.
I'll follow your fingers.
Yeah. So you want to slowly go. So go across here. Look to your left. Keep going to your left. Stop. You move too quick. Like you can't do that. It's like this. We're talking millimeter movements. I can feel where it is, but slowly move your
What's the jump?
Yeah, don't jump. Keep your head straight. Come back. Do it again.
Good.
All right. Slowly moving your eyes across. Don't move your head. There. Pause. Pause right there. And breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And tiny bit up a bit. Don't move your head. There. Right there. Pause. And breathe. Allow your subconscious mind, as you look in that direction, to show the image of what's associated with not having enough. Keep looking where you're looking. Allow your subconscious mind to show the image of where you didn't have enough. Or there's not enough. First image that comes to mind.
I saw a flower on the floor.
A flower, as in a flower.
Yeah, it looked like a piece of like wheat or like barley, like one of those like wheat kernel. That was one thing, and then the other was a picture of maybe my mother that kind of flashed into my mind. But I think that was also my mind trying to make some kind of image.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm just going to do a little unhook there just in case. Dear Mum, because I love you so much, I'll experience that there's not enough, or choose to create circumstances where I believe there's not enough, so that you don't have to suffer anymore. And as I say these words, I recognize the futility of that endeavor, as no matter how much I believe or experience that there's not enough, no amount of my suffering could ever take with the suffering you've endured. So I choose to end this suffering obligation now. So yes, and acceptance.
Yes.
He said, I choose to always experience and know that there's enough, and then there's more than enough for what I need. So yes, and acceptance. So yes, and acceptance. Good. Good. Normally I would do a whole unpack of that, but just for time reason, I'm not. But in that location that's called an I-axis Q, when I ask you that question, what lets you know about that outcome, your eyes will track, which is where I saw you dart across. Your eyes will track to the event or circumstances where that first decision was made. And it might have been you overheard as a little boy a conversation your mother was having, or it could be even something even innocent. There's not enough flour or something. It really can be very, very basic. And you decide, and maybe your mum's having emotions at the time. She's disappointed. She's feeling genuine fear. Maybe it's one of those moments when money has started to dwindle down and she's trying to make things work. Point being is I can do that a lot easier in a one-to-one kind of context. But it sometimes work if I can move the eye trackball smooth enough and easily enough. But for now, just what do you notice is different?
A little bit of extra trust. And I would say a lot has shifted that I can't see.
Right. Beautiful. So what you're going to notice is if you start, and over the next week or two or 3 or 4, start to notice if you start thinking differently in the way that you...
Oh, looks like it was his turn.